A lot of people are setting up second residencies these days. And in this video, I'm going to tell you what the hell a second residency is. And I'm also going to tell you some of the reasons why some people are so obsessed with a second, a third, or even a fourth residency. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about my journey, what I've been through when I set up multiple residencies all around the world, and how you can do that as well. So we're going to deep dive straight into this after this intro. Our lives and the world that we live in is nothing but an enormous board game of life. And no matter who you are or where you live, you're already in the game, competing with other players for resources, money, food, and opportunities. And the great news is that all you need to do to turn this game into your own personal success is to educate yourself on what other successful players are doing to gain a competitive advantage. So if you learn what's going on, if you learn how the game works, you will eventually outsmart corporations, governments, and other players, so you can establish the kind of life, happiness, and freedom that you deserve. And these videos, they are all about strategies on how you can start to master your game. So I would encourage you to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel so we can take your game to the next level. I'm Kim Park, and this is Board Game of Life. All right, so the first thing to understand is that you already have a residency. Where your domicile is today, there is your residency. But you can also have a different type of residency for tax purposes. So maybe you are living in one country, but you are tax resident in another country. And you can also have a separate residency for your business. So you have all types of different residencies that you can set up. But the main thing about a residency is that that country where you have the residency, they have the obligation to let you live and enter the country when you have this residency. You notice when you travel on vacation to a certain country that they grant you a few days or a certain amount of days on entry. We Westerners were very spoiled with this because our passports let us into a lot of countries and we get visa on arrival, right? But a lot of other countries like India and Pakistan and African countries and a lot of, not Western countries, they're not so fortunate, and they have to go to the embassy of that country that they're going to visit, and they have to apply for a tourist visa. But either way, these days that they grant you, these are just as a tourist. These are for tourism purposes, right? But if you want to reside or spend any amount of time in the country where you can work or you can stay for a longer period of time, you probably should get a residency. And these are different procedures and different processes depending on what country you're talking about. But a residency lets you stay in the country. You have temporary residency that can allow you to stay for a few years or maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years. And then you have permanent residency, which allows you to stay indefinitely. And those are the most popular ones, obviously, because then you have the residency for life. But you also have to be very careful, because some countries where they have permanent residency, even though they are permanent, you have to maintain the residency. They may have some rules that says that they have a minimum requirement that you have to stay in the country, or you have to visit the country a certain amount of days each year, and so on. So I actually had clients that had set up a permanent residency in another country, and they lost the permanent residency status just because they didn't visit the country. They forgot to enter the country a certain amount of days per year. So you need to be very, very careful about this. So to me, things like that is a no-no, because I want to have multiple residencies. And if you're going to have multiple residencies in different countries all around the world, it's going to be very hard for you to keep up with these minimum requirement days of staying in each country, and you have to remember and visit back and forth, back and forth. Obviously, it's doable, but to me, it's a big no-no. So some of the reasons why you might consider getting a second residency is because of tax purposes. If you set up your residency in the right way, in the right country, you can start paying 0% tax on your income. And that's a very lucrative deal to most people. Some people say, well, I want to pay taxes and I want to do right in the society, but they haven't really educated themselves on what the taxes actually goes to. A lot of countries and governments, they put all your tax money, very close to all of your money, into wars and different programs and government departments that actually surveillance and track you as a citizen, which actually works against you. So it's very important to educate ourselves on why we should trust the government or not trust the government. And if you don't trust your government, you should definitely consider setting up a residency in another country where you feel that the government is moving in the right direction. Another common reason why a lot of people are looking to set up a second residency is because of lifestyle. A lot of people know that in some countries people are a little bit more warmer and friendlier and more open and want to socialize more. Maybe that's what they're looking for. Some people want to have a lower price level on things that they consume on a daily basis, such as food or rent. Some people want to have more of the food that they like. For example, when I was traveling in Asia, I was crazy about the Asian food and the street foods and all these different food experiences that you can have when you travel in different regions or countries. Some people want to have a better climate. I know when I moved away from Scandinavia, I didn't really like the winters. It was so cold that the family jewels were almost pointing backwards. That's how cold it was. So I was looking forward to go a place where I could live and have more tropical climate. So all of these things are really important for you to consider when you are setting up a second residency. And I think the key point here is to look for small differences that you can improve compared to where you live today. So if you want to live someplace that's warmer, cheaper, better, you have better lifestyle, you have better investments perhaps, maybe you want to lower your taxes, all these things add up and it can give you a lot better quality of life. And then of course you have all these the craziness that's going on in the world right now. Maybe you want to get away from a government that is restricting you and, taking away your freedoms. So it's also important to look to countries that has a more free society where they allow you to do whatever you want to, as long as you're not breaking the law, of course. But in my opinion, Mexico, where I live right now, has been one of the most open and free countries on the planet since the health crisis started. And that's the reason why I chose Mexico, because the list of benefits are so long. You have a better lifestyle, the weather is great, it's really cheap, the food is amazing, the people are awesome, you have really good investments, the taxes are not the best, so you have maybe a little bit lower taxes than Western countries, of course. But for optimizing taxes, I wouldn't recommend Mexico. But for lifestyle and investment, if you want to invest in properties and have a high yield return on your investments here in Mexico, that is exactly what I'm doing right now. So it's very doable over here. And one of the things that I really like about Mexico is that it's such a vast country. You have such diversity. You have big cities, small sleepy beach towns, you have white beaches, you have mountain regions, you have all types of different areas that you can go to. I mean, my favorite obviously is right here in Quintana Roo, where you have the white sandy beaches and lush palm trees and turquoise water. But a lot of people may want to live in Mexico City for the big city life, but you have all kinds of things. So, I mean, even if we would have a hard lockdown in the future, you can still just travel inside of Mexico, because I actually read somewhere it's almost a third of the United States landmass. So it's actually a vast country. And Mexico So far, I've been living here a couple of years and I haven't seen any red flags yet. So I'm very, very happy with my choice. So if you are interested in getting a permanent residency in Mexico, reach out and I will point you in the right direction. I would be happy to assist you and show you everything that I learned how to set up a residency in Mexico. I will leave a link in the description below. And one last point is that a lot of people are making the mistake of waiting to set up the second residency until they have everything prepared. And as you probably know, when you are moving away from your own home country, it can take a while to organize things, right? Maybe you want to sell off some assets, maybe you need to liquidate some real estate, maybe you need to do this or that and quit your job and you have to organize. And the thing is that if you wait too long, sometimes your chances of setting up a second or a third residency diminishes, because a lot of countries, we see all over the world right now, a lot of countries are actually making it harder and more expensive to set up a second residency. So I think the smart thing to do is to set up your second residency as soon as possible, and then you can go back and organize yourself and get things done. But as soon as you have that second residency down, you have it for life. And that's an insurance for you and your family. So you always have a plan B or a place to go if your own domiciled residency country where you are right now, if that country fails or the government is going in the wrong direction, you know exactly where to go. But if you don't have that second residency, you're basically stuck. So my advice is do it sooner rather than later. And then we have my second recommendation for a second residency, and that is Paraguay. Paraguay is a country in South America that not a lot of people know about, but it's actually a very, very interesting country. It's sandwiched in between Brazil and Argentina, and it has pretty much the best meat on the planet. It has just the most amazing food, and I was there just a couple of months ago and I set up my tax residency now in Paraguay, and it allows me to pay 0% tax on my income. And I can show you exactly how to do this as well. So if you are interested, Paraguay is a very, very good option to set up a second residency. And these days it makes also a lot of sense to set up a residency on the continent, pretty much the only continent on the planet that doesn't have nuclear weapons. Because there's a lot of talk these days about a World War III, with everything that's going on in the world with Ukraine, Russia, and the United States, and you have the tensions between Taiwan, China, and America. And if you want to get away from all the madness, it makes sense, because both Mexico and Paraguay, they are located in Latin America, which is an area of the planet which is very, very neutral. So if you are looking to set up a life in a place that is a little bit safer, a little bit better, a little bit warmer, cheaper, and better upgraded from your lifestyle that you have today, reach out, and I will leave the links, like I said, in the description. You can reach out and I will be happy to assist you to get your permanent residency in Paraguay as well. So anyway, for me, it made a lot of sense to move away from Europe during the health crisis. I actually moved from Europe to Mexico during 2020. And you would think that it would be close to impossible, or at least very hard, to move to another country during these times. But it was actually not that hard. He said that they're trying to deter you, they're trying to put all these restrictions on you, but it's all bullshit, right? And having this optionality of having a second residency, for me it represents optionality. It's all about having the option. Let's face it, we're only as free as our options, right? So to secure the freedoms of your family for the future is a very, very good investment. So I highly recommend that you look into this. And this is all I have for you today. But if the information was helpful, give the video a like. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friend. And I will be looking forward to see you on the next video.